بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. So you remember me. Always keep me in remembrance. أَذْكُرْكُمْ, I will remember you. وَاشْكُرُونِي, it's very beautiful. The relationship between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the abd, the bondsman, is bilateral. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. You remember me, I will remember you. In tansurullah yansurkum. If you help Allah, Allah will help you. There is in a hadith a very beautiful expression. If you come towards Allah walking, Allah will come towards you running. If you come towards Allah the amount of a hand, Allah will come to you the length of an arm. If you remember Allah in your heart, Allah will also remember you in His heart. And if you mention Allah in some gathering, Allah will mention you in a much higher, a better gathering, the gathering of the angels. Allah mentions the persons who mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in some gatherings. So it's a bilateral relationship. فَاسْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. And be thankful to me, be grateful to me, and don't be ungrateful towards me. Now here the first part of this surah Al-Mubarakah ends. In this first part, I told you the basic address was towards the former Muslim Ummah, either directly or indirectly. Although in the last portions, there was something said towards Muslims also, there was some mention, very trivial mention of the people of Makkah, of the pagan Arabs also. Because you know the division in the Quran, you won't find that very hard and fast. The two parts are interlocking with each other. Now the address is directly to the Muslim Ummah. And please note before we proceed, that this we can analyze that there are four threads of four subjects which are wound together just as you have in a rope, so that they are interwoven with each other, although all the threads are continuous. But when you have two or three or four strands and you wind them and you make them in the rope, if they are of different colors, red and blue and green and white, these colors will appear to be interrupted. They will be not continuous. You will see the red color and then the green, then the white and then the blue and so on. But if you open away and you separate the strands from one from other, now you will find that all the strands are continuous. So what are those four strands? Number one, now the address to the Muslim Ummah about Sharia. And Sharia comprises of two parts. The ibadat, the modes of worship, and the muamalat, the affairs of the Muslim community. This is halal, this is haram, this is permissible, this is forbidden. In social affairs especially, in nikah and talaq, etc., etc., you'll find. This thing is haram, about sharab and masir. All these commandments will start, and the blueprint of the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be prepared within this second part of this surah Al-Baqarah. So two strands are of Sharia, one of Ibadat, Saum and Hajj, they will be discussed. Salat will be discussed. And number two of Muamalat, Nikah and Talaq and marriage and separation and divorce and so on, and things which is permissible and things which are forbidden to eat, etc., etc. And the other two strands, the two parts of Jihad fi sabilillah, Infaq fi sabilillah, Qital fi sabilillah. To spend your mal. And this is the jihad bil mal. Jahidu fi sabilillah bi amwalikum wa anfusikum. Jihad with your properties, your belongings. This is infaq fi sabilillah. Then the jihad with your bodies, the final stage is qital fi sabilillah, going to war for the cause of Allah. So these four strands, the ibadat, the muamalat, the infaq fi sabilillah, and qital fi sabilillah, they are interwoven with each other. And some issue will be discussed, then the second will be taken, then the third will be taken, then the first might be again discussed, then the second might be discussed. So they are continuous, but they will appear to be interrupted. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. Note this ayah. In the very beginning, the same verse with which the fifth section of this surah ended. That section which was for dawah to Bani Israel. Ya Bani Israel, azkuru ni'mati allati an'amtu alaykum wa awfu bi ahdi ufi bi ahdikum wa iyaya farhabun. And the last ayah was wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah. وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. take help and take Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's support. Fasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah. And two things are the medium of the support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can get the support and help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through patience and perseverance and through salah and prayer. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. O you who believe, seek help in patience and perseverance and prayer. Inna Allaha ma'as-sabirin. Verily, Allah is with the patient ones. People who show perseverance, Allah's help will be with them. وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ. Now because a very big mission, a very difficult mission was assigned, now you have to be the witnesses over whole of mankind. And this will entail risks for you. And you might be killed for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ. From the very beginning, in the very beginning, it's a warning. Don't think it's a very simple route. It's a very plain road, a plain path to tread. No, there are difficulties. There are going to be tests and tribulations. You will be tried in every way. Your sincerity will be tested. So this is the forewarning to the Muslim Ummah. And here the Muslim Ummah is being addressed for the first time in the Quran. وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ. Don't say about them who are killed in the way of Allah that they are dead. بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. No, they are living, but you cannot perceive it. It's beyond your perception. But they are living, they are not dead. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. And we shall certainly and surely test you with something from fear. You will find fear. وَالْجُوعِ and hunger. وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ and losses in the property as well as lives and fruits. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, give glad tidings to those who show patience and perseverance. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ. Who are they? Who are those sabirin? الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ. Who, when afflicted with calamity, قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. They respond by saying that we belong to Allah and to Him we shall return. We are His property. We belong to Him. He can do anything He likes to us. All that He does to us, all that is from Him is acceptable to us. He is our Lord. Huwa Maulana. He is our Lord. If He has decided this for me, well, this is good for me. Although it might appear to be bad for me, injurious for me, I might think that it is causing any loss to me, any pain to me, but it is good for me if it has been ordained for me by my Lord, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ. They are the people on whom the blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come and His mercy will descend. أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. And they are the rightly guided ones. They will reach the final destination of success and rushd and fawz and falah. Inna safa wal marwata min sha'airillah. Because with Ibrahim's mention in the 15th section, there was the mention of the building of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Baytullah. Then there was the mention of tawaf and ruku and sujood and i'tikaf and maqam Ibrahim. So in the holy places there, these two were remaining. So a mention has been made of these two also. Inna safa wal marwata min sha'airillah. Verily, surely the mounts of Safa and Marwa are also from the emblems of Allah, symbols of Allah. Sha'air, emblems, symbols, signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَنْ حَجَّ الْبَيْتَ وَاعْتَمَرَ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ أَن يَطَّوَّفَ بِهِمَا. So whosoever makes Hajj or Umrah of the Bayt of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there will be no sin on him if he also circumambulates both of them. He is doing tawaf, but you know this is not tawaf, this is sa'i. Going from Safa to Marwa, 1. Returning from Marwa to Safa, 2. So all 7. So actually it's walking in a part of it It's running, but it is not circumambulation. Sa'i is called. But here Quran has used the same word tawaf, because you are going from this to that, returning back to the original Mount of Safa. So it can be said to be tawaf, but actually this is sa'i. And in the manasik hajj it's called sa'i. وَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ شَاكِرٌ عَلِيمٌ. Or whosoever does any good deed voluntarily, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always appreciative of anybody's good deed. And He is definitely knowing. He knows every good deed of every person. Now there is a reference again to the Jews. And this is going to be the last place in this surah where a reference has been made to the Jews. Because they concealed all the facts about the advent of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the last part of the 16th section, with which the first part of the Quran ended, we had the ayah, but because we were ending that session, so we couldn't pay attention to that ayah. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ كَتَمَ شَهَادَةً عِنْدَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. Who is more cruel, more unjust than that person who conceals and hides a testimony from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which is with him? You are having a testimony from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you are hiding it. You are keeping it back. You are concealing it. So this is the biggest injustice. This is the biggest act of evil that a man can be expected to commit. Man aslamu mimman katama shahadatan indahu min Allah. Now actually we may say that these 3 ayat or 4 ayat, they are giving the details of the same ayah. Inna allazina yaktumuna ma anzalna min al-bayyinati wal huda. Definitely, surely those who conceal and hide what we have sent down, min al-bayyinat, clear signs and clear teachings, wal huda and guidance, min ba'de ma bayyannahu lin-nasi fil kitab, after we made them very clear in our book for the people. Ulaika yal'anuhumullah wa yal'anuhumul la'inun. They are the people on whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself curses, and all those who curse, they also curse them. Ulaika yal'anuhumullah wa yal'anuhumul la'inun. Those who have that testimony, that knowledge, that guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down in His book, but people who have that book, they conceal that testimony, actually they are getting the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and curse of all the cursors. Illa allazina tabu. There is an exception. Except those who repent. Wa aslahu. And relent towards them. Wa bayyanu. Those who make tawbah, who return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who repent, wa aslahu, and then they rectify their attitude, wa bayyanu, and then they explain and make clear whatever was there in the book. Ulaika atubu alayhim. They are the people on whom I will relent towards them. Wa ana tawwabur rahim. And I am the one who relents towards people who make tawbah and who are repenting in the real sense. Innal ladhina kafaru wa matu wa hum kuffarun. On the contrary, those who committed kufr, who disbelieved, who belied the truth, وَمَاتُوا وَهُمْ كُفَّارٌ, and died in the same condition, died in kufr, died as kafirs. أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. They are the people on whom there is the curse of Allah and all the angels and all the people. They are having for them all the curses from Allah as well as the angels as well as all the men. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا. They will remain in that, dwell in that curse forever. La yukhaffafu anhumul azab. Neither the punishment or chastisement will be reduced for them, diminished for them. Wala hum yunzarun. Nor they will be given any respite. Wa ilahukum ilahun wahid. Your Lord, your God is one God. La ilaha illa huwa. There is no God except Him. Ar-Rahman, huwa ar-Rahmanur Rahim. And He is all compassionate, all merciful, most beneficent. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار والفلك التي تجري في البحر بما ينفع الناس. Now this is a very important ayah of the Quran, and this actually I have given it a name Ayatul Ayat, because this one ayah contains reference to so many physical phenomena. These physical phenomena which Quran declares as signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These skies, these heavens, this moon, this sun, the alternation of the day and night, creation of heavens and earth, and this rain, all that the greenery you get after the rain, and so on. Everything is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sign of His wisdom, sign of His authority, sign of His power. So actually all these things are signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we find in various Makki surahs, each one of these signs is discussed separately in ayat. But here in one ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gathered so many physical phenomena as His signs. So it is ayatul ayat, the one ayah which has comprised so many ayat and signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ard. Surely in the creation of heavens and the earth, وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, and the difference or alternation of the night and the day, وَالْفُلْكِ الَّتِي تَجْرِي فِي الْبَحْرِ بِمَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ, and in the ships that float in the rivers and the sea, with the material which is beneficial, بِمَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ, which is beneficial for people. وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِن مَّاءٍ, and in the water that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down from the sky. فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا, and revived the earth after it had died. It was dead, because when there is no greenery on the earth, it is like a dead earth. There is nothing, no signs of life. But when there is rain, there are all signs of life, there is greenery. And the insects also appear, birds also come. Life in all the form now becomes very evident and apparent. فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا, and He made, the earth again living after it had been dead. وَبَثَّ فِيهَا مِن كُلِّ دَابَّةٍ, and He has spread in it all the moving creatures, all the animals, all the things that He has created. وَتَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ, and in the changing of the winds from this direction to that direction. وَالسَّحَابِ الْمُسَخَّرِ, and this cloud which is subservient, and this is between بَيْنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, this is floating between the earth and the sky. لَا آيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ, in each one of them there are signs for people who have understanding, who can infer from these, who can understand them. Every sign is a clear proof of Allah's existence, of Allah being the all-knowing. All the great attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are manifest in these physical phenomena that every man can see with his own eyes. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ, and there are among the people who accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala other things and make them rivals to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they become loving them with the love which was due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a philosophical ayah of the Quran. And let me mention here Dr. Rafiuddin. He's a very big scholar, and he explained the philosophy of self of Allama Iqbal in a very philosophical book of his, and that is the ideology of the future. The main theme of the philosophy is that in man there is an urge for love. He wants to love someone, something, some idea, some ideology. This is the basic urge in every human being. So much so that for this love of his, he can sacrifice, and he is ready to sacrifice even his life. Because the modern psychologists, they tell us that the most potent instincts in man are the preservation of the self and the preservation of the species. You want to live. You want to save yourself. This is the most potent instinct in every living being. But in men we find, men have sacrificed their lives for ideologies. How many people laid down their lives for the communist revolution in Russia? How many people sacrificed their lives at the command of Hirohito, the king of Japan? They committed harakiri. They committed suicide at the command of the emperor. At the command, because they thought that our emperor is a god also, a manifestation of God, God incarnate. So, out of love for him, they committed harakiri, and that was a special form of suicide. They used to cut their own abdomen with their own hands, with a knife, starting from the lower part of the abdomen till the chest. A person doing it himself, killing himself. So actually, he has decided, he has inferred, and is proved that the most basic instinct in human beings is, which differentiates them from all animals. Because the most potent animal instinct is to preserve himself. But here we find that man sacrifices his own life, not only his own life, his progeny, for the sake of some idea, ideology, some philosophy, some people for their nation, some people for their country, some people for their honor, communism and so on. It means there is an inherent urge to love something in every human being. This inherent urge of love was basically produced in us for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But people who don't reach that place, who can't comprehend Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who have not recognized, who didn't have the marfa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now they place somebody else, something else in its place, and they start loving him or that idea with the intensity with which they should have loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the basic reason of shirk. Sometimes it is the country, my country. I am sacrificing my life for my country, my nation. I am sacrificing. I have dedicated myself to my nation, my religion, my philosophy, my ideology, my revolution. So actually all this was to be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but people out of ignorance, when they couldn't reach the concept and the marfa, and the understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they place something else at that place. Because if you are very hungry, you eat everything then. Even haram can be eaten at that time. Even the dead flesh, the flesh of a dead animal can be eaten. Because the urge to eat is so strong in you, that if the good food is not available, you are eating very foul food. In the same way, if this urge of love, it is not attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will somehow attach with something else. And that thing will become your God now. Either it is watan, or it is qawm, nation, or country, or some idea, or some ideology. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. There are from among people who take or make something rival to Allah, and they start loving them, loving that thing, just as they should have loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. And those who have real faith, who have reached the iman, who have reached the gnosis of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who have got the marfa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than anything. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Now this is the essence of iman, and this is the criterion on which we can assess ourselves. Is Allah more dear to us than our own lives? Is Allah more dear to us than our sons and daughters and parents or our wives? Is Allah more dear to us than all the wealth of the world? If the answer is yes, Allah is more dear to me than anything else, then it is iman. Thank God that you have the iman. And if anything is there which is more dear to you than Allah, then that is your God, not Allah. If you love wealth more than Allah, the wealth is your God, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why the Prophet said, Ta'is abdul dinar wa abdul dirham. Woe to the bondsman of dirham and dinar, because whosoever loves this wealth, dollar, more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dollar should come, money should come, rupee should come. Whether it is coming from halal or haram, I don't care. It means it is more beloved to you. It's more dear to you than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you may be having the name of Abdul Rahman, but actually you are Abdul Dinar, you are Abdul Dirham. Ta'is Abdul Dinar wa Abdul Dirham. Woe to the Abdul Dinar and Abdul Dirham, a man who is a bondsman to dinar and dirham. So whosoever is most loved by you, he is actually your Lord, he is actually your God, and you are worshipping him. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. And those who have real iman, they love Allah more than anything else. Let me quote here the ayah number 24 of Surah At-Tawbah. قُلْ إِنْ كَانَ آبَاؤُكُمْ وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ وَإِخْوَانُكُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُكُمْ وَعَشِيرَتُكُمْ وَأَمْوَالٌ اقْتَرَفْتُمُوهَا وَتِجَارَةٌ تَخْشَوْنَ كَسَادَهَا وَمَسَاكِنُ تَرْضَوْنَهَا أَحَبَّ إِلَيْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَجِهَادٍ فِي سَبِيلِهِ فَتَرَبَّصُوا حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ اللَّهُ بِأَمْرِهِ. Say to them, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if your fathers and your brothers and your sons and your wives or spouses or your relatives and the wealth that you have gathered and the business about whose, you are always fearing about some recession, and of the big buildings that you have built, which you very much like, if all these eight things are more dear to you than Allah and His Messenger and going to jihad for the cause of Allah, then go and wait till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares His final judgment, and Allah is not going to guide such rebellious type of people. Now this is actually the criterion of Iman. So وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ وَلَوْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا يَرَوْنَ الْعَذَابَ أَنَّ الْقُوَّةَ لِلَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعَذَابِ. And only if these people who had committed sins, who have been unjust, who have done shirk, because this is the description of shirk, if they could see the azab, is yarawna al-azab, if they could see the moment, if they could visualize the time, when they will see the azab and the punishment and the chastisement, and they will clearly understand that time, anna al-quwwata lillahi jami'a, that all authority is with Allah, wa anna Allah shadidul azab, and that Allah is very severe in punishment. These realities will dawn on them at that time. Only if it could dawn on them at this time, this would have been beneficial for them. Istabarra alladhina tabi'u min alladhina taba'u. When those who were followed, the leaders, the general public was following them. They may be religious leaders, they may be the political leaders who have given slogans to the public at large. When those people who were followed, they will disown them who were following them. Wara'ul azab. And when they will see before their eyes the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fire of hell, وَتَقَطَّعَتْ بِهِمُ الْأَسْبَابِ, and all the relations between them will all be broken and cut. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا, and at that time those people who were followers, who were following the leaders, the religious or the political leaders, they will say, لَوْ أَنَّ لَنَا كَرَّةً, if there can be a returning for us to the worldly life again, لَتَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُمْ كَمَا تَبَرَّأُوا مِنَّا, we will also sever all relations from them. We will disown our leaders, the religious as well as the political leaders, as they have disowned us today. كَذَلِكَ يُرِيهِمُ اللَّهُ أَعْمَالَهُمْ حَسَرَاتٍ عَلَيْهِمْ. In this manner, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show them all their deeds that they had done or committed in this world as regrets for them. Now they will be regretting. We followed them and they took us astray. We believed in them and they just took us away from the right path. But this will be regret only. There is no second returning to this world. This life is for once, and now the hereafter will be eternal. The result that is going to last forever. وَمَا هُمْ بِخَارِجِينَ مِنَ النَّارِ, and they will not be able to come out of the fire. Before we start with this 21st section of Surah E Baqarah, please note 2 points. As I told you that the 4 strands of the issues which are discussed in the second part, one is regarding the Ahkam al-Sharia. Number 2 point, that just as we find in the end, in the last part of the first section, first half of the surah, there was mention of the pagan Arabs, the idolaters, the mushrikeen of the Arabian Peninsula. In the same way, in the second half also, we find in this ruku a reference to them. And that is, just as I said that in the previous section, it's the last mention of the Ahlul Kitab, of the Jews and Christians in this Surah E Baqarah. In this way, in this section, this is the last reference to the pagan Arabs in this surah. Ya ayyuhan nas kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiba. O people, O mankind, eat from whatever is in the earth which is halal, lawful, and tayyiba, and good, and refined. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, and don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ, verily, he is for you a clear enemy. Now 2 things. كُلُوا مِمَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا. Whatever is halal, permissible, eat it. Don't refrain from eating anything which is declared by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as permissible, as halal. Shaitan attacks human beings in 2 ways. He will persuade you to eat what is haram. And then he will give you different ideas about things which are halal. And he will ask you not to eat them, not to go near them. So actually keep both these things in your view. Kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiban. Eat whatever is halal and whatever is good in all the earth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided you with food, and don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. He is for you a clear enemy. Innama yamurukum bis-su. He actually ordains you. He commands you to whatever is evil, wal fahsha, what is sinful, wa an taqulu ala Allahi ma la ta'lamun. And he also commands you to say something about Allah what you not know, without any knowledge. And it has another meaning also, to ascribe to Allah something about which you have no knowledge. That Allah has declared this thing to be haram, whereas we don't find anything in the Quran or in any revealed scripture that this is haram. This has been declared haram from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will ascribe these things, just as the people in the Arabian Peninsula, they had declared many things to be haram. The Jews had declared the meat of camel to be haram, although there was no proof. Only Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam didn't like it personally. It was his liking or disliking, that's all, personal liking or disliking. But they declared it to be haram. In the same way, there were animals in the Arabian Peninsula who were given the name for certain gods, that this is reserved for that god and this is reserved for that god. And certain animals who had brought forth some offspring after them, now they are haram. You cannot take any service from them, you cannot eat their flesh, although those animals were halal in themselves. So all these things are covered by these ayat. إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And you ascribe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala those things which you don't know. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. And when it is said to them, follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down, what He has revealed. قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَانَا. They say, instead, we shall follow on what we found our forefathers. Whatever they were doing, whatever their practices, we shall follow them. أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا. What? Will they follow their forefathers? Although it may be that their fathers were not knowing anything, but not understanding anything. أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. And they were not the guided people, they were not on the guidance. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا كَمَثَلِ الَّذِي يَنْعِقُ بِمَا لَا يَسْمَعُ إِلَّا دُعَاءً وَنِدَاءً. And the likeness of these people, these kuffar, who worship idols, and who call them, their gods, their idols, for help, and pray to them, prostrate before them, their likeliness is to the people, to a shepherd who calls his flock of sheep. Although this flock of sheep, they understand nothing, but only that someone is crying and someone is, calling, except that. So just like animals, these idols even don't understand, don't hear, but they are calling them and they are praying to them. Summun bukmun umyun fahum la yaqilun. They hear nothing, they are dumb, they are deaf, they are blind, so they do not understand. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum. Again, repeating. O you who believe. In the beginning it was Ya ayyuhan nas. The address was to the whole of humanity. It was in the generalized terms. Now it is particularly the Muslims are addressed here. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum. Eat from the good things with which we have provided you. Washkuru lillah. And be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In kuntum iyyahu ta'budun. If you really worship Him and obey Him. Innama harrama alaykum al-maytata. He has declared for you haram, and He has forbade you from eating what? 4 things. Al-mayta, the flesh of dead animals. Wad-dama, and the blood. Wa-lahm al-khinzir, and the flesh of swine. وَمَا أُهِلَّ بِهِ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ. And whatever was sacrificed in the name of anyone else except Allah. وَمَنِ اسْتُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ. Then whosoever is forced by necessity, he has nothing else to eat, and he is dying of hunger, he can eat from these things even. Although these things have been declared to be haram, najis in themselves. But a person who has nothing to eat, who cannot find anything more to eat, any other thing to eat, and he is going to die of hunger, he is allowed to eat from these also. فَمَنِ اسْتُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ. There are two conditions. There must be no craving for it. You say that I am eating pork because I have no other thing to eat here. No. You are not going to die without taking pork here. Then maybe that you have some craving within your heart for this, and you are only using it as a lame excuse and nothing else. There should be no craving for it, no liking for it, wala adin. And only that much amount can be taken which will save you from dying, not more. فَمَنِ اسْتُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ. On such a person, if he takes some of these things which are forbidden, which are haram in themselves, there is no sin on him. Inna Allah ghafurur rahim. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving and he is merciful. Inna alladhina yaktumuna ma anzalallahu minal kitab. Verily those who hide and conceal what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down in the book, وَيَشْتَرُونَ بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا, and they are purchasing, like accepting in exchange very low price. أُولَٰئِكَ مَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ إِلَّا النَّارِ. They are the people who are not eating into their stomachs and bellies except fire of hell. Although they might be eating very tasty foods, but this is actually the fire of hell, burning cinders of hell which they are putting in their stomachs and bellies. وَلَا يُكَلِّمُهُمُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Allah will not speak to them on the day of judgment, on the doomsday. وَلَا يُزَكِّيهِمْ, and he will not purify them. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, and for them is a very painful torment. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الضَّلَالَةَ بِالْهُدَىٰ. They are the people who have purchased zalalah, error, and going astray in exchange for hidayah, hudan, in exchange for guidance. They have given up guidance, accepted zalalah. Wal azab bil maghfirah. They have exchanged azab for maghfirah. They could have maghfirah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they have given it up and they have chosen the punishment and the torment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَا أَصْبَرَهُمْ عَلَى النَّارِ. How bold they are for the fire of hell. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ نَزَلَ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ. And this is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down his book with haqq, with whole truth, the total truth. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِي الْكِتَابِ لَفِي شِقَاقٍ بَعِيدٍ. And verily, surely those who are making differences concerning this book, who are differing concerning this book, they have gone far away in enmity and arrogance. Now comes a very big ayah of the Quran and a very grand ayah. It gives us a very comprehensive view of what is the virtue, what's the concept of virtue and goodness in Islam. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. It's not all charity, all good, that you turn your faces towards the east and west. The same subject. There are two full sections of the Quran, of the Surah E Baqarah, which discuss direction of the Qibla. But two sections before we found the beginning. لِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. And two sections later, we are again having the mention of the same issue. Don't think that this is all virtue and this is most important. You have attached, out of proportion importance to this issue. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. The real charity, real good, real virtue is not that you turn your faces towards the east or west. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ. But actually charity and virtue is the virtue of a person. مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. The first precondition of virtue and goodness and all good is to have faith in Allah, who has belief and faith in Allah, wal yawmil akhir, and the last day, wal malaikati, and the angels, wal kitabi, and the books, wal nabiyyin, and the prophets. And number two, what is the manifestation, practical manifestation of this iman? Number one, وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَالسَّائِلِينَ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. They give away their own belongings, their own wealth, although they themselves love it, in spite of their love for it. This mal, this wealth is definitely dear to their hearts. But despite this love for this property and wealth, they spend it. And they spend it for whom? Zawil Qurba, close in relationship. Wal Yatama and the orphans, Wal Masakin and the poor, Wabna Sabil and the wayfarer, Wasailin and the beggars, Wafil Riqab, and in releasing the people from the bondage of slavery and maybe also of debt. Wabna Sabila Wasailin Wafil Riqab, Waqam as-Salah. Second practical manifestation, and he established the regular prayers. Wa'at az-Zakah, and he paid the charity, the regular charity, the compulsory charity. And number 4, وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَهَدُوا, and those who fulfill their words and promises and contracts when they have made any contract, any promise. And number 5, and last but not the least, rather we should say the most important, وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ, those who show perseverance and patience in distress and affliction, and at the time of conflict and war, and they are steadfast, they show patience, and they are ready to risk everything for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ. They are the people who are really truthful, and they are the people who are really pious, who are really God-fearing. Now this is, as you have seen, the name of this ayah can be Ayatul Bir, the ayah which gives us a comprehensive view of what is bir, what is virtue, what is charity. And this gives us a full character picture of a person. Because the goodness or iman, real faith, it permeates the whole personality of a person. The whole personality is changed. If there is real iman in the heart, وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. That real iman in the heart will change and transform the whole character, the whole personality of a man. And that has been described in 5 terms. Number 1, that he gives away his wealth, although it is dear to him, for the needy, the poor, the orphans, and so on. Number 2, establish prayer, pays the regular zakat, and he fulfills the promises that he makes, the contracts. Whatever he has given word, he sticks to them. And finally, then he is steadfast in the struggle between evil and good. He fights the evil. He challenges the evil. And if there is time to have patience, if there is persecution, if there is opposition, and he is afflicted with distress, pain, he has to go hungry. He has to take risks about his own life. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, which we read in the 19th section. So that gives us a total picture of a man, of a person, of a character who is liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is actually a good person. He is actually the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumul qisas. O you who believe. Now there is again some commandments about muamalat, the affairs of the world, about the cases in murder. Because in every human society there can be killing, slaying and murder. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumul qisasu fil qatla. O you who believe, the law of equitable retribution concerning the slain, the murdered one, that has been made essential for you. Kutiba alaykum. It has been made imperative on you. You have to abide by this law of equitable retribution concerning the cases of slaying and killing and murdering. Al-hurru bil-hurr. A free man in the place of a free man, he will have to die. If he had committed the murder, he will have to die, or he will have to pay the blood money. Wal-abd bil-abd. And if slave, then the slave will die. Not that because the slave, he has killed a free man, so he is not equal to his life. No. A man is equal to every other man as regards the life. Wal-unsa bil-unsa. And if the murderer is a woman, then that woman will go. فَمَنْ أُوفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٌ. For whomsoever something is diminished from his brother, Now the brother of the slain, of the murdered person, of the killed person, their kith and kin, if they are ready to pardon him, as if they have done some favor to him, فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٌ, if they have accepted the blood money, that is also a mercy to the murderer, to the killer. فَاتِّبَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, so then it should be given alleviation from your Lord. It should be in the proper way. أَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ, and that blood money should be paid to them in a very beautiful way, not grudgingly. أَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ ذَلِكَ تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ, and this is an alleviation, a decrease, a leniency from your Lord and a mercy. فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ, whosoever transgresses even after that, he has accepted the blood money also, and he is after the taking the life of the killer also. Whosoever does both the things, فَلَهُ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, for him there is a very painful punishment. So this is the beauty of the Islamic law about these cases of murder, you know. If somebody is murdered, he has gone. Now, even if the killer is killed, the family of the murdered person gets nothing. But if this family pardons the killer, now this killer is under an ihsan of those people. And you know this will be good for both the parties. Otherwise, especially in the tribal societies, killings go on. Revenge taken from one tribe, then the people of the other tribe kill so many people of that tribe. Then again, this tribe takes the revenge and kills so many people of that tribe. It goes on. In dynasties, it goes on. Generation after generation, it goes on. But this law, you know, it can produce a full stop. It can place a full stop on all these things. Because now, the duty of the state is to procure and get that murderer, bring him to book. Now you place him at the mercy of the family of the man who was murdered. That family has the authority. If they want to forgive him, they can forgive him. If they want to accept blood money, they can accept blood money. So that is actually the beauty and the wisdom of the divine law in the case of murder. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, and for you, O people of understanding, there is life in this law of equitable retribution concerning the slain, so that you may be saved. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةُ, it has been made obligatory upon you, if time of dying comes of a person amongst you, if he is leaving behind him some wealth, that he should prepare and give a will, wasiyah, lil walidain, for the parents, wal aqrabin, and the kith and kin, bil ma'roof, in a proper way, in a proper manner, in a reasonable, equitable manner. Haqqan al muttaqeen. It's a duty upon all people who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Actually, this ayah has been abrogated in toto. Because when in Surah Nisa, the law of inheritance was revealed in detail. This is the portion of the father of the deceased, this is the portion of the mother of the deceased, and this is the portion of the daughters, this is the portion of the sons, and if there is none among the parents or the offsprings, then this wealth can go to the brothers and sisters and so on. When that law was revealed, this thing was abrogated. Now it is not necessary for any Muslim to prepare a will, because all whatever he leaves behind him, it will be distributed according to the law of the Sharia, law of inheritance. But if somebody wants to make a will, he can make up till 1/3 of his property only. And none of the inheritors, the regular inheritors according to the Islamic law, cannot be given anything in the will. That is the portion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has fixed. They will get only the fixed portion. This will can be only for other people, some poor people, some institutions, some work of charity that can be given, but up till the limit of 1/3 of the total property, not all, not more than 1/3. So this is applicable only now to the 1/3 of the property of a person who has died, and rest of it will definitely be distributed according to the detailed law which is revealed in Surah An-Nisa. It can also be said that this ayah has been abrogated totally, because it is no more essential, obligatory for a Muslim to have a will. So, kutiba alaykum iza hadara ahadakumul mautu in taraka khairan lil wasiyah. This commandment has been abrogated in toto. But a part of it has been retained by Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is from Sunnah. That if somebody wants to give something in a will, then he can do it up till 1/3 of his property. فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَ مَا سَمِعَهُ. But then whosoever changes it after he had listened to it, فَإِنَّمَا إِسْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَهُ. So the sin of it will be on those who change it. A person is dying and he has given a will, supposedly verbally only, but the people who were there, they have now changed. They say, no, he said not that thing, but he said this thing. So now the person who has died is not responsible. He will not to be blamed on the day of judgment. It will be those who have changed his will, they will be brought to the book and they will be blamed. Inna Allah Samiun Alim. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listens to everything and he knows everything. فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوسٍ جَنَفًا. Whosoever fears that the deceased person, the person who has died and who has given a will, janafan aw isman, he has done some injustice in his will, or he has done some wrongdoing. If there is the fear that he has committed a mistake, he shouldn't have done this, it is unjust, the distribution that he has given in his will is not based on justice, فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ. Then there must be a dispute. Those who have been given less, they will stand and demand more. Then if they agreeably, if they change it and they make the matter right by mutual consultation, فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِسْمَ عَلَيْهِ. Then there is no sin on them. It is not sacrosanct that whatever the will is, it has to be implemented as such. No. If it is thought that it's unjust, injustice has been done, and then now by mutual agreement, some adjustments are made, so there is no harm in it, and there will be no sin in it.